My Lord, I have a huge amount of sympathy with the fears about the chilling effect of Clause 4 and the points that the Noble Lord Willett started off making. So I'm basically torn on Clause 4. I don't quite know where to go. A number of people have discussed the potential of vexatious litigation. I actually think that's rather cynical. I mean, this kind of we keep hearing of all these kind of bad faith players. I'm simply just worried about litigiousness, full stop, even if it's by good faith players, because I do think that we know that a dependence on law courts to resolve problems can just tangle us up and can actually make the matter of fighting for freedom and free speech become subsumed in legalese and lawyers and so forth, even if done with the best of intentions. I don't want, in other words, us to abandon what we all started off agreeing, was that this bill should not compensate for a need for a culture change in relation to arguing for the importance of academic freedom. It should not be seen as a replacement for that. So I definitely don't want the law courts to get in the way, because they actually can kill off any possibility of that culture of the spirit of freedom being drowned out. So that's, one side of it. But I was reminded by, I thought, the excellent speech by the Noble Lord Treesman, particularly his point that he made about trade unions having changed, that there is a real problem to address. And actually, I slightly disagreed with his description of student unions, because they might have been like that in the past, but they are much more professionalised, actually, litigious and full of the kind of disputatious and actually often anti-free speech than they ever were than in the past. But nonetheless, things have changed. And so my concern is, if we remove Clause 4, does this bill become toothless? That's my concern. Is it the case that we are abandoning all of the commitments of the bill to having no implications or no outcome whatsoever? And I just can't decide which is the way to decide it, because I don't want this bill to have no impact. Professor Kathleen Stock has been mentioned, and the truth is that she actually wrote an article supporting this bill, which was the article that persuaded me to support this bill. And she said it was something she thought she'd never need to support, but she did feel circumstances had so changed that you needed something. And so I think we at least have to recognise the change is so profound that maybe the bill is necessary, and maybe the bill without Clause 4 is toothless. That's my question, really. However, I am more drawn towards the points put forward by the Noble Lord Sanderson about a kind of employment tribunal way of approaching this. I think that would be, and giving clearer powers to regulators rather than constantly looking to the law court. So I'm much more open to that, and I do hope the government will listen to that as a very sensible suggestion, and the other points that have been made about giving more powers, clear powers, to the regulators to deal with it. I only just have another couple of queries, and I appreciate this because I just don't understand the law as the lawyers do. The Noble Lord Grabner explained, I think they explained, that the duties in the bill means that you don't need to have a statutory tort because anyone would be able to sue. But made the point that in the bill, by having it as a statutory tort, it made that right to sue more prominent. Well, the difficulty I have there is that if the problem or the complaint is that it's been drawn attention to, I don't necessarily want to have a bill that hides it either. I mean, if you have the right to sue, then does it make any difference if you draw attention to it in the statute? That was the query I had there. But my question then to the Minister, and that I am completely confused about, is the only point of the Clause 4 if somebody suffers material damage, and this has been referred to by people in a much more sophisticated way than I can. Is it that these are just disputes where you will actually lose your job or directly suffer material damage. The reason I mention that is because in most of the free speech disputes involving academics at universities, what actually happens is that it's not so much material damage as reputational damage. Reputational damage that might well have an impact on your employment in the future. You're described as a bigot forevermore, and you can't escape having these kind of labels attached to you. That's one of the things which, again, very movingly, Professor Kathleen Stock found so disparaging, so demeaning. Somebody who would be a lifelong campaigner for women's equality would have that hanging, that label used against her. So I suppose, again, whether Clause 4 can resolve this, but is it only material loss, or does that material loss have a greater encompassing way of saying reputational loss that will undoubtedly affect your employment prospects in the future anyway?
Please.